This week's blog post is the seventh and final in my series on the St. Gaudens National Historical Park. For more on the park, see the first post in this series. In this post we're covering St. Gaudens' home, Aspet, which was named after the birthplace of his father, a nearby temple, and one more portrait relief. What became St. Gaudens' home was built around 1800 as an inn. St. Gaudens first rented it in summer 1885 from Charles Beeman. I've shown you St. Gaudens' portraits of the Beeman family in an earlier post. St. Gaudens purchased the property in 1892, adding to the house a large porch, dormers, stepped gables, and a garden. At the lower right is the main facade of the house. From 1900 until his death in 1907, St. Gaudens and his family lived at Aspet full-time. His widow Augusta summered there until her death in 1926. It was Augusta and his son Homer who established the St. Gaudens Memorial in 1919, leaving much of the family's property on the site. Downstairs there are two parlors, a dining room, and the kitchen, all of which have original furnishings. Like the floorboards in the stables, the floorboards and the rugs here look so old that I can imagine St. Gaudens walking on them. On the walls of the dining room are a replica of John Singer Sargent's portrait of young Homer St. Gaudens. I've given you a link to more on that. There's also a replica of the late 5th century BC Greek relief of a Nike fixing her sandal. On the windowsill at the far right, here, is the bowl given to St. Gaudens by the members of the Cornish colony in 1905, which I'll discuss in a moment. The upper floors, which are not open to visitors, have 4 bedrooms and 2 baths, plus servants' quarters. Augusta used to work at her desk on the landing, up here, and keep her eye out for visitors through the fan light above the front door. Between Aspet and the little studio, which we looked at a few weeks ago, are several elegant gardens that are beautifully blooming, or were beautifully blooming in August when I visited. There are benches that encourage visitors to relax and enjoy the view. I really wish I could create a garden like this. It involves thinking in the 4th dimension that I'm not very good at. At the far end of the meadow from the house is the temple, which holds the ashes of St. Gaudens and several members of his family. This small structure is a recreation in marble of a stage set for a 1905 play, A Masque of Hours, The Gods and the Golden Bowl. Written and performed by some 90 members of the Cornish colony, the play honored the 20th anniversary of St. Gaudens' arrival in Cornish. The golden bowl that was presented to St. Gaudens by the performers sits in the dining room at Aspet. This is it. St. Gaudens thanked his friends by designing a plaque to commemorate the event, which included the names of all the participants. And he gave one to each of the participants. This, you can see, is the temple right there. The St. Gaudens National Historical Park has one of the plaques in the little studio, which is the one that I'm showing you here. And finally, in 1887, St. Gaudens did sketches for a relief portrait of Stevenson, 1850 to 1894, whose work St. Gaudens admired. Even by 1887, the famed Scottish writer was quite ill and skeletally thin, but St. Gaudens chose to show him relaxing against pillows and reading. A circular version of this portrait hangs in the little studio, which we saw a few weeks ago. The inscription on this very large plaster version, I think it's probably almost 8 feet high, is a quote from Stevenson, but it seems to fit St. Gaudens' own sense of life, and that makes it a perfect ending to our visit to the St. Gaudens National Historical Park. Here's the inscription. Give us grace and strength to forbear and to persevere. Give us courage and gaiety and the quiet mind. Spare us to our friends, soften us to our enemies. Bless us, if it may be, in all our innocent endeavors. If it may not, give us the strength to encounter that which is to come, that we may be brave in peril, constant in tribulation, temperate in wrath, and in all changes of fortune, and down to the gates of death, loyal and loving to one another. DianeDurantewriter.com has hundreds of posts on sculpture, painting, architecture, and my other obsessions. To join the free Sunday recommendations email list, visit the URL that's on the screen or email me. And you can say, "Well done, Diane," or support my work and receive rewards by means of the tip jar on DianeDuranteWriter.com. As always, thank you for listening.